YouTube vinyl community, Who fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about The Who's most recent, or one of the most recent releases, The Who live at the Isle of Wight in 2004. So this is, of course, a CD, but it's a double CD set with a DVD in there as well, so it's a pretty big case here. It has been released on Blu-ray as well. I'm ancient, so I still don't have a Blu-ray player, so I found the DVD one and went with that instead. I was really stoked to see this come out. This was an interesting time for the band. I vividly remember, I was definitely a Who fan at this point in 2004, so like I remember a lot of this stuff happening. I remember them, putting out some new songs, going on tour again. In the wake of John Entwistle passing in 2002, he died right before they were about to start a tour, and as hard as that tour was, they got through it. It wasn't that long, but they got through it. They got Pino Palladino to play bass with them, who's played bass with everybody. And he filled in pretty well. But yeah, he jumped in and they did that tour. And then in early 2004, they decided to start doing some new material for the first time in years. There were talks about new material in the works around the time John died. I can't figure out if they actually recorded anything with him or if there were demos or anything. Even being a fan at that time, reading like Matt Kent's notes on the Who website back in the day, and they used to post videos constantly back in the day on their site, which it was awesome back then. That said, in 2004, I mean, they got back together again to go out on tour, and I think just to figure out how to be a band with just Roger and Pete. At this point, Zach Starkey had been in the band for almost 10 years. He joined them on drums for the Quadrophenia tour in '96 and basically stayed with them ever since. Rabbit on keyboards had been there since the late '70s, around the Who Are You tour, around there, with spots where he wasn't involved as well. And then at this point, Simon Townsend, Pete's brother, joined. So they were a five-piece, and they work really, really well. They are very tight with each other. And I love this era of the band. They sound fantastic, and there's definitely a different urgency to their music and a different approach to their playing and the way they presented themselves, because now they were just down to two, so there was a lot to work with there. But yeah, the Isle of Wight Festival, when they played there back in 1970, there was 650,000 people. There was a ton of people. At this point, there was 35,000, which is still a lot of people, but nowhere near as big as it was back in 1970. So yeah, I mean, this is just a really fun document of this tour, of this show in particular. And the set list at this time kind of stayed the same. They dropped maybe one or two songs throughout 2004. This one in particular features Naked Eye, which is great. They played that one once in a while here and there over the last 30 years before this, but not regularly. And earlier in this year, they had started some shows in England to warm up, and they were playing some bizarre stuff like Another Tricky Day. That thing, where'd that come? I love that song, but it's what a bizarre choice to pick out. And that was dropped at this point. They were also doing Sea and Sand and a few others from Quadrophenia. But by the time you get to this, in 2004, the set list on it is great. I mean, they open with Can't Explain, which is their opener. They were opening with Who Are You for a while, but you got all your early classics out of the way, Anyhow, Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere, Substitute. Then you jump into Who Are You, and then do they kind of break it up by album a little bit at that point, so you get some Who's Next stuff, you get some Quadrophenia stuff, then you get some current stuff, and then you get the Tommy era to close it off. But really, I love this album a lot. It's so fun to look back and see them at this time, because I remember being so excited when they were coming back at that point, because they put out their Then and Now compilation, which had two new songs, Real Good Looking Boy and Old Red Wine, which was about John, apparently. Both really, really great songs, and they translate live so well. And they were playing those songs, for quite a while. I remember the first time I got to see them was on the Endless Wire tour, and I'm pretty sure they played Real Good Looking Boy on that show when I saw them. But they did play most of Endless Wire, which was cool. So yeah, really excited that this thing came out, and I like the packaging a lot. Let me show this off to you. So it opens up like that. You got Roger and Pete, and then you got your DVD and your two CDs. So anyone who's heard the Who live in the last 20 years or so, um, they've had a certain sound that they've kind of stuck with. Not bad at all. I absolutely love it. The biggest thing is that in the last few years, I feel like maybe Pete, not so much Roger, but maybe Pete has felt like he doesn't have to give 1,000% anymore, and he doesn't have to. He doesn't owe anything to anybody. Like, he's done this his whole life. He can do whatever he wants. But there's a certain magic to this era of the Who. I think because they were coming off John dying, I think Pete realized he had Roger in the band, and that he needed to realize that he had a special bond with him. And so they've become way closer ever since John died. But to hear them do some new songs, to hear them do acoustic songs together, just Pete and Roger doing Naked Eye, is very, very special. That's one of my favorite versions of that song ever. The version of Drowned on here is pretty good, with just Pete on his guitar. But there's some excellent vocals from Roger. I mean, the guy at this point was in like his early 60s, I think, and he was still roaring like a lion, and he still does. Pete's playing on this thing is fantastic, and he's, you know, doing windmills all over this thing. Watching the DVD was a lot of fun because it was really well filmed. They show all the guys in the band pretty well, and you know, Pete's banter with the audience is hilarious. There's one point after "Who Are You" where he says, "I think they turned the sound down," and, you know, turn it up again, like obviously way more colorfully than I'm presenting it, but he does that in Magic Bus as well at the end, because they always used to do that thing when, you know, you can't have it, and he says, you can't effing well have it. Like, I don't know, I like that stuff. I like seeing them play off each other, but they genuinely look like they're having a really, really good time, which translates well, you know, and they really plow through this thing. I mean, you got great tracks on here that, you know, like The Punk and the Godfather, and then you get, you know, Bargain, Eminence Front, and then your Tommy stuff at the end with Amazing Journey, Sparks, Pinball Wizard, See Me Feel Me, Listening to You, and then they ended it off with Magic Bus as an encore. But to see the band feel, I wouldn't even say re-energized, but like kind of refocused, because they had been the three of them since 1978 when Keith Moon died. Like, they had a whole other generation of being the Who without Keith. And now here's a whole new generation of the Who without John and Keith. So, you know, I think going into this, they had a whole different spirit, and maybe they had something to prove. Maybe they were still like, you know what, we're still rock and roll. We're still going to show off here and prove that there's something going on. So, yeah, I mean, apparently also on this tour, unfortunately not on this disc, they did also air out Love Ain't for Keeping and Long Live Rock. Which tracks that really never get played and haven't been played basically since the 70s. But, yeah, I really enjoyed this set a lot. There's not much to say about it beyond, like, they know what they're doing. They know how to play well, they know how to be exciting, and they know how to make an audience happy. I think the sequencing of the set list was very well planned, and, you know, the tracks they chose, obviously most of them being hits, but they're really good hits. So that's it. There's really not much I can say about this thing. It's released through Eagle Rock, which they do a lot of the classic rock stuff. It came out in 2017, you know, only a few months ago. And it's just an excellent set. You can get it on Blu-ray as well as DVD. And the CD sounds fantastic, you know, and the Blu-ray, the DVD itself was really fun to watch. Again, filmed really well, and shows the span of the audience, which is huge, and they're on this big giant stage. And they look like they're having a great time. So I really can't go into much more detail than that, other than it's fun, and I really enjoyed it. So, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. The Who, live at the Isle of Wight. My name is Giggens. This is Ballad Reviews. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.